All right, so after my unboxing video, I decided to do a video showing how to install the transformer. But I had a little problem. If you notice on the back, the amps now come with a muffin fan back there, which in the manual says it's optional. You'll notice mine's not installed anymore, and that's because it broke when I opened this door up. This is the old fan here, and I don't know if you can tell, but the wires, I had to resolder them and glue them in. What they had done, and I'll show you in a minute, is they wanted the wires to come straight out, so they pulled them out of the strain relief and stuck them through one of these holes in the center, because if you had the strain relief in, it'd be out here. So they stuck them through one of the holes in the center. Well, the wire was left to where when you pull this door open to put the transformer in, that the wire gets hung and it gets pulled out of the fan. There's a little circuit board in the fan in there that it breaks, and mine broke. I was able to find out where this wire solders the red wire, and I put it back in, but I decided on a brand new amplifier I didn't want to put a broken fan in it. So I got to looking this one up to try to find one. As you can see, it's a 24 volt fan, and I got to searching for this exact model number around the internet, and of course it's made in China, and this is a sleeve fan. It's a pretty cheap fan with a sleeve in it. Well, it's not in stock anywhere, and one place said it was being discontinued, or it was discontinued. And there was a newer model out, which just came today from Mauser, and it's this one here. You'll see the number. There you go. If it focuses, it's a little bit different. And what the difference is this is the same fan, but it's with ball bearings in it, so it ought to be a longer lasting fan. And they just kind of cheaped out on that deal. So anyhow, you'll see this is how the wires are installed in this strain relief. And I'm going to get over the light and show you. So what they've done is they've pulled them out of here. Hang on a minute, let me pull them out. So, well, I can't get it out with one hand. There we go. I got one of them on. So they had pulled the wires out from here and the middle. So basically they've left them here with no strain relief on them. And so when you open the door and it gets caught on it, breaks them off. Now I hadn't quite figured out what I'm going to do yet, but I'll get back with you in just a minute. I'm going to open this door up and I'm going to see how things fit. So to get the transformer goes down in here, and this door folds open. But to get it to fold open, there's a screw here on the back that you pull out. And then there's a screw here, another one down here. So let me get those pulled out and be right back. Okay, we're back. So one thing I didn't mention, all these cables here are hooked up. All these cables here are hooked up to this board. And you have to pull them off to open this door up. Open this door to be able to put the transformer in. Now, one thing I noticed when I pulled the cable off, and first I thought, boy, this is kind of chinchy, which it still kind of is, but these type of plugs are made to have one wiring in them. Well, they had a spot where these two blue wires came together. Instead of taking care of them back somewhere else in the amp, they ran two wires up to here, and then since that thing won't take two wires, if you look closely, they soldered it. Well, that's all well and good, but it melts. They end up melting the connector in the process. And it's just not what you'd expect to see inside a $4,000 amplifier. But that's the only plug done like that. So, and I'm just pointing this stuff out just as an observation to be a totally 100% fair on the way the amp is. So anyhow, I got this out, and this door, when it came out before, the fan wires were coming on here, and they got caught somewhere in here, and that's where it ripped that wire loose. They, you know, the wires are pretty long, and they go through the board here, through this, there's a little grommet right here. and that's where they go through the other side of the board. Now, like I say, I'm going to secure these somehow. I got to figure out if they really need to come to the center. You know, did they really need to pull these loose? But that's what they did. So I'm going to play with that for a minute, figure it out, and then I'll come back and show you how I installed the new fan. Okay, so here we are back at the fan. Now, on the original fan, they had pulled it all the way loose up to the end up here, all the way to the motor, and they're soldered right underneath this, you know, sticker. So I went ahead. You have to pull it out back here, which is the main relief, because otherwise this thing, it screws right up against the case here. Sorry for the light, but it screws all the way up against there and it won't work. So I left it under here and I put some hot glue on top of it. At least that'll keep it in place where I still have the strain relief, you know, on this end here where it can't pull up now. And then I put the hot glue in there to hold it. I also twisted the wires together. They had them loose. It was actually just my red wire that got stuck and broke off. And it didn't take much to break it off either. So anyhow, I'm going to thread it back in there and then I'll show you how it is when I get it done. All right, well, I got the fan back in, mounted, and filter on it and everything. And those screws, when I first got the amp that hold the fan on, they were just finger tight. I got them a little tighter there. They screw into the chassis, so you have to go in through the holes in the back of this thing. And I ended up, you know, this thing here just, see if I can snap it off. It just snaps off. And this cover here, I ended up putting on with those little screws that came with the other covers, and they worked real good, so I don't have to mess with those screws that had come with it with the Loctite on it. And then so that's the little filter in there you can see that I stole out of the other ones to put in. So this just filter and all just snaps back on. It fits on real good. Before, it was just kind of flopping all over the place because the filter material wasn't in there, so this thing was just all loose since it came out of the box. Now it fits right. There's a filter so I don't suck all my dust into it, and I think everything's going to work a whole lot better. So you can see that's back on there. It's got the filter in there like it's supposed to have. Now I'm going to mention a couple things about the amp before I end up doing a review on it. The line voltage on and off switch is back here. The problem with this amp is that's the only place that it is. So to turn the amp on and off, you have to turn on and off back here for the mains. You know, most of your amps, like I guess some of the Alphas I've seen, have the main power on and off, and then I guess what you'd call B plus switch to turn on, and then an operate standby. Well, the main power is on back here. So whenever you turn this on, then the amplifier, all the you know, control circuitries, low voltage stuff is on up in the front. It actually isn't putting the B plus to the tube yet, so the tube hadn't done anything. And so now when you come around to the front, what you end up with is you end up with the power light and the power switch, and the power light right above it is on. Now I don't have this plugged in right now, but anyhow, so you turn it on and off there. The display, which is right in here, it'll have something on it the whole time showing that the amp's just in standby. And then of course when you turn the power on, it says warming up, and it counts down from 90 seconds down to 0. So to actually power, and they tell you in the manual that, you know, it's okay to power it down here if you're just going to be away for a little bit, but when you're done, you're not going to operate, say, overnight, then you have to flip the switch off on the back. So I don't know why they did it that way. They should have put the other switch up here with it, but I guess from a putting it together standpoint, it was easier just to do everything right where the wires came in, you know, back here, those blue wires. These are the fuse holders here, but it's kind of disappointing that they did it that way. Also, I'll talk about these knobs But I think I'm going to wait and talk about them when I get this, after I put the transformer in. So the next thing to do is this whole amp has to be moved over to my little pedestal that I built for it in a ham shack and put in place. And then this monster transformer, which is pretty dadgum heavy, has to be put in. Now, like I said, I put it in once before, and it screws in those 4 holes in the bottom, and it uses those screws there. Well, what I'll tell you about this transformer is when you put it in here, and it's to get those screws in, it's going to be touching all the way against the edge here. You can't, there's not even a paper width room to play. It's really tough to screw it in, so you have to kind of hang this chassis out over the side, have somebody hold it. I have my wife hold it while I put the screws in from the bottom, these first 2, and then the inner 2. But I'm here to tell you they're hard to get in the first time. I'm hoping the second time they're not as hard. They were hard to get in because there's no play. You got to really have that transformer pushed all the way up. They almost should have taken some of this and filed it off so there's a little play. I mean, there is 0 play at all. So it's, you know, the thing's heavy, real heavy. It's heavier than the amp itself for sure. So anyhow, that's where I'm at now. I got all this stuff here disconnected like you have to do to get the door open. I've installed the new fan with the wire coming out twisted together so they're not separate. I've put almost all the wire through this rubber grommet instead of having the wires separate like they did, because they had them separate and it left the red wire hanging down low, and it's what got caught when I initially opened this door. It was laying down in there, and being it was the first time I'd ever opened this door in my life, I wasn't expecting it to be built in such a manner that it would get caught and break off. So that's kind of poor the way they did that. I don't know if maybe I'd end up wire tying it or something. They hadn't decided yet, but it goes right now that I know it's a problem, and hopefully you will too after seeing this video. You'll be careful. I may be the only one that's ever had that problem, you know, not being careful enough, but that's just how it was. So anyhow, we got this new fan in, a ball bearing one instead of the sleeve one, and I'm going to move this over, and I'm not going to do it right now because I'm in the process of tearing my shack down and getting ready to put this new amp back in, and along with my Elecraft amp that I have. And so in a day or 2, I'm going to put this over there and I'll start the video up again, and you can actually watch me fight the transformer getting it in there, because it's really tight, number one, getting it in here, because it needs to go in straight. This door has to be open all the way, and it's still a very tight fit right over in here, getting it through. You really got to hold your mouth just right to get it in. They could have made this area a little bit bigger to make it easier to get it in and out. And also, when I got it, this strain relief here on the wire, or whatever you call it, this little gray thing, this one here wasn't plugged in. It was just laying down here somewhere. I guess they had not put it in all the way, and it had fallen out and was laying down here. So anyhow, like I say, I may sound like I'm being critical on this thing, but I'm trying to let you know every little thing that I've found with the amp so far. So anyhow, we'll be back in a day or so and finish this off.